Okay, there we go. I hope you can hear me now as I'm unmuted.
Oh, yes, Harry, we can hear.
Fab. All right, I'll get going. So nice to see you all, or at least know you guys are there digitally. My name's Harry. I'm in Delhi. I work for the British High Commission here in Delhi, and I am the UK Visas and Immigration Communications Manager for Asia and Africa. Although I've been in India for almost 4 years now, and I've seen a lot of student recruitment and trying to encourage students to choose the UK, both before and after the pandemic started. And it's always been a great part of my job. And I'm happy to say I've worked with SI UK throughout that time and really welcome their support, as well as sorting this event today. So I will go into my presentation and then we can do questions. Please do start writing the questions in the chat. I often find many people have the same questions, and it's good to make sure we address as many people's concerns as possible. But the presentation that I have will just give you the overview. So let me share that. There we go. Okay. So do shout if you can't see it, but I'll start speaking now. So firstly, in terms of student numbers, the key thing to note is that despite coronavirus, student numbers from India are actually going up, and that continuing to go up. And that's been a trend that we've seen in the last 4 years, which has been really welcome to see. Last year, 56,000 Indian students were successfully granted a student visa, which was 13% higher than the previous year. So like I said, a 13% increase despite COVID, which is really quite impressive. And that builds on a huge increase in the last 4 years. It's actually about 500% increase in the last 4 years. Between 2017 and 2021, there were about 11,000 Indian students in 2017, and there are now 56,000, so about 5 times higher, which is really impressive. We anticipate these numbers will increase as far as the international situation allows, and we think that's fantastic. The UK government is committed to getting as many students as possible to choose the UK. India is a huge part of that, and so we hope things like our new post-study graduate route, which I'll talk about in a bit, will help you choose the UK. And of course, our universities are the best in the world, so you should choose the UK. In terms of just like if you were to screen grab anything or take a photo, this is a good one to do, because this is the minimum requirements of the route, of the student visa rather. And I'll go into more detail in terms of that. So first, in terms of supporting documents, the smaller box on the left is what everyone in the world applying for a student visa has to provide, or rather everyone in South Asia, sorry. You have to provide a passport, naturally, and that has to be valid when you apply. You have to have a CAS letter from your university, and that is now a digital letter in, I think, every circumstance. And that basically says that the university has offered you a place and provides the conditions that they've offered you that place on. And if you're from South Asia, including India, you have to have a tuberculosis test result from an approved tuberculosis test provider. Most students from this part of the world will also require what's in the larger purple box. You need proof of finances, you'll need educational documents and proof of English. This will all change. There's no single ideal set of documents. Educational documents and proof of English, what your university requires to accept you onto that course, whether that's a degree certificate, 12 standard marks, or anything else, that will be mentioned on the CAS. The university will say, we require these documents of the student. UKVI require those documents for the visa. Likewise with the English, IELTS, or another English test, or an interview, or even other protocols like MOI, medium of instruction letters. The university again will specify what they need to prove your English, and that is required for the university. That is required for the visa application as well. So proof of finances, again, we have a slide on that. That'll depend on your circumstances. In addition, the 2 bullet points that are in italics, the proof of consent and the ATAS certificate. Proof of consent is needed if a student is under 18, or there may be a need for proof of relationship if parental funds are relied upon as well. For example, if your parents are paying for your course, you might need to approve that relationship. And ATAS certificates, not many students require this. It's a minority of students, usually to do with things like nuclear physics, aerospace engineering, various specific science and technology courses. If you do require an ATAS certificate, your university will tell you, and you must get this before applying for your visit visa. But most students, particularly most of those from India, where business administration and other similar courses are always popular, it's not required for courses like that. It's just very specific courses, usually science, technology, engineering. So in terms of funds, this is another useful thing to screenshot. You have to think about two amounts of money which you add together for your student application. First, your living costs. So London is more expensive than the rest of the country. Hence, you need more money to show that you can meet your living costs in London. And that's £1,334 a month for each month, up to 9 months. Likewise, in the rest of the UK, it's £1,023, again, for up to 9 months. What the 9-month thing means is that if your course is longer than 9 months, you still only need to show 9 months fee. So, for example, if your course is 12 months, you still show 9 times £1,023, or £1,334. If it's 3 years, again, it's still only 9 months. However, if it was 8 months or 6 months, it would be the lower amount. So most students will have to show about £9,200 if they're outside London, and about £11,300 if they're inside London. And could I ask people? Yeah, thank you. I was just getting some background noise, so thank you for muting. If it's money in your account, it has to be 28 consecutive days from the date of online visa application. So that is, you apply online, and then a few days after, you go to the visa centre, which is run by VFS. But you have to, the date has to be 28 days before you apply online. Generally, students show this money through the cash in a savings account. That's either in your name as a student or the parent or legal guardian's name. No other relative or business account or anything like that is allowed. You can get a loan from an Indian bank, for example, or another bank or financial institution. As long as it's a fully approved loan that you can evidence that you have, you can show that money or show that loan. Or you can have a sponsorship or scholarship. Again, that has to be fully approved and be able to show that. You can have partial scholarships or sponsorships. For example, if your course is £10,000 and someone pays £5,000 of your fees, you would show the £5,000 fee scholarship, and then £5,000, and then the rest of it, you would show money in your account. So that is possible. So if you're calculating the cost of money you need to show in your bank account for your visa, you would calculate whether you're in London or outside, which would be either about £9,000 or £11,000, which is about 9 or 11 lakh nowadays. And then in addition, you would show your tuition fee for the whole course if it's a 1-year master's, or the first year if it's a multi-year course like an undergraduate degree. So for example, if your course was £10,000 fee and outside London, you would have to show £10,000 plus 9 times 1,023, which would be about £19,200. So you have to do that sum, living costs plus tuition fee, and that's what you show for the visa. Application process. Many of you may have experienced this before for a visit visa or another visa process. You apply online and you pay your visa fee and the immigration health surcharge at that point. You then book an appointment within 5 days of your application online, and you go to a visa application centre. Most of our visa application centres in India are open. In Delhi, for example, in Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai. Obviously, there's been some disruption with the last few months of the second wave in India, but our visa application centres are open and are accepting student applications. Another key point is that students can actually travel to the UK despite the current travel restrictions. Students are allowed. Once you submit it, so between the first and second box, it's about up to 5 days. And then between the second and third box, it's up to 15 days or 3 weeks. You can also pay for priority visa or maybe even super priority visa, which is 5 days or 1 day. And that is up to you. That's an additional fee, but it is possible. If you get your visa, you'll get a 90-day visa stamp in your passport, a visa sticker, and that will give you 3 months to go to the UK. And if it's refused, you'll get a letter on email, not in person, not a physical letter, telling you why you've been refused. Just some of the idea of what we've done to support students during the pandemic. We've extended the visa, so that basically gives you 3 months instead of 1 month to travel to the UK. We're opening the graduate route, the post-study work graduate route, and that is opening next Thursday, which is quite exciting. So the students who went last year from India and around the world are going to start applying for their post-study work graduate route on Thursday. And if you choose the UK, you'll be able to start doing that next year when you complete your courses as well. We've given flexibility in rules. We've permitted distance learning so far this year. And we've also introduced the student route, which is basically a new updated visa process. You can apply 6 months in advance if you need, and it's just a more streamlined process for students. So in terms of graduate route, this is often the most popular part of the presentation. It is, for most students, it will be 2 years post-study work option. This is for undergraduates and postgraduates and courses at that level. It will be 2 years. PhD and doctoral students will be able to get 3 years. That's the only distinction. If you're undergraduate or postgraduate, it is 2 years. The fee will be £700 and you'll pay the immigration health surcharge as well. And you have to apply from inside the UK. You wouldn't be able to apply for this from India. And it is entirely unsponsored. So neither your university nor your employer would have to sponsor you. You can work, you can complete your course. Between completing your course and finishing your student visa, you apply for your graduate route. And from that point until 2 years after, you'd be able to work, look for work, or do a combination of jobs or anything like that for 2 years without any need to get sponsorship or meet a minimum salary or anything like that. If you want to stay longer, you can switch to other routes while in the UK, for example, skilled work. There are different rules for that, but it is possible to do. And as I say, it opens on the 1st of July, which is very soon, only 6 days. In terms of common questions, I think I'll just go into questions because I can see the chat box lighting up quite a lot. So I'll go into proper questions later and just talk about this for now. So this is the sort of model, the traffic light system that the UK has for travel, where countries are either green, amber, or red, depending on the strictness of the rules and the seriousness of the COVID situation. India is on the red list, as is the rest of South Asia, and this is likely to continue for the foreseeable future. There are no plans to take India off the red list at this current time. And that means that you have to, if you're traveling from India, if you spent at least 10 days, if you spent any time in the previous 10 days in India, you have to book a mandatory hotel quarantine stay for 10 days after you arrive, which costs £1,750 and is required for all. Does not matter if you've been vaccinated, and currently students can't quarantine anywhere else. You can't quarantine with your university, for example. You have to, if you want to go to the UK directly from India, you have to pay the fee, enter the quarantine and complete it. And it does not matter if you've had 1 or 2 doses of vaccine or anything like that. If you're coming from India, you have to go into hotel quarantine. I mentioned at the start, I work for the British High Commission and I've lived in India. I haven't been back to the UK myself in almost 2 years. But if I were to go back, I would also enter hotel quarantine. This is mandatory for all to protect the public health of the UK. I understand it's really difficult and the fee is difficult. It's difficult is another cost, but unfortunately with the global health situation, it is mandatory. So for now, if you're thinking of going to the UK, you should factor this into your plans. In terms of general advice, the risks, the box on the right is commonly what we advise students to think about. We need to see students can speak English well, and that may come through in an interview or it may come through in IELTS tests. If you have a gap in your study, for example, 10 years since the previous study, that may be something you want to explain. There's no ban on doing that, but you should explain it. Naturally, if you're seen to use false documents, then of course that is considered deception and would lead to a visa being rejected. There may need to be some clarity about funding source and availability of the finance. For example, fixed deposit accounts are usually acceptable, but not all types of banks financial products are. So you've got to make sure that your bank is able to provide the evidence you need, and your account provides the flexibility in using the funds. So you have to be able to show that. Of course, we have to assess each application. There's a rule called the genuine student rule, and that is basically evidence that a student is definitely intending to study in the UK. And so providing evidence about your intent to study, why you chose that particular university, and how and why this takes your career or your life forward is always really useful during the application. And of course, you've got to be clear about your travel history. Even if you've been rejected for a visa previously, mention that in the application, because it's much better to mention it and address it than to try and hide it. Again, I'll miss the questions until later. Interviews, a minority of students will be interviewed, and that will continue. The majority of students won't be interviewed. If you are interviewed, you shouldn't be there to, you shouldn't see it as a personal attack. I get that interviews can be intimidating, but we're not trying to catch people out. Generally, we're trying to see that students can speak English to the level that's required, and understand their course, and understand and can explain their plans. That's that genuine student rule that we tried to say. So if you're asked to an interview and you can speak in good English and explain why you chose this university and how this course is going to benefit you and your intent for the future, that is the best way to prepare for the interview. And universities do often offer support for that. You may or may not be interviewed, but if you are, just don't worry too much about it, because there's no reason that it's like automatically a refusal. So thank you for listening. I'll go into the Q&A now, and I'll start having a look in the chat to see if there's any.
Okay. Thank you very much, Harry. So we'll start with the Q&A session. So coming back to the first question, we have Shreya who's asking us, what are the medical tests to be done before before going or booking a ticket?
So medical tests for the visa application, there are no COVID tests required. That doesn't come at that point. For your visa application, like before the pandemic, you have to have a tuberculosis test. That's the only medical test required before the visa application. There's a list of approved centres. There are multiple across India. There are 2 in Delhi that I know of, one in Lajpat Nagar and one in Shantiniketan, I believe. And you have to get the test from there and then submit it with your visa application. There's no COVID test for the visa application. However, when you travel to the UK, there is COVID testing requirements. You get a test up to 3 days before your flight to the UK. And then, as I say, you book the hotel quarantine package before you go to the UK. Up to 10 days before, you can book the hotel quarantine package, and then you enter the hotel quarantine. During that time in hotel quarantine, you get 2 tests done on day 2 and day 8 of your quarantine. And then, assuming they're negative, you leave on the 11th day. So there are 3 tests for the travel to the UK. There are 3 COVID tests, 1 before, 2 after, and there's obviously the hotel quarantine as well. But for the visa test itself, it's just the TB test. There's no COVID test required for the visa application.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. Moving on to the next question. Will education loan sanction letter be enough to prove the living expenses, or should I show 28 days bank statement?
Just double check that question, the wording of that. I've just got the chat.
Yeah. You want me to repeat the question?
No, it's fine. I found it. So, will education loan sanction letter be enough to prove the living expenses, or should I show 28 days bank statement? So I can never say this document will be enough, because we don't advise on individual documents. However, if you have proved that you have an education loan approved, and that would be dispersed into your account in advance of your studies in the UK, that should meet the requirement for the financial requirement. That does not need to be 28 days before, because it is a loan. It is not cash in the account. If it is cash in yours or the parent's account, then it has to be 28 days before. But if it's a loan, then it has to be a fully approved loan. And again, I wouldn't say that document absolutely yes, but I'd say as long as the loan is approved and meets the fees that you need to meet, then it would be acceptable.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Harry. Moving on to the next question. Can you give some information about the procedure for students who have had Covaxin instead of Covishield?
Sure. And looking at the chat, we can probably take the next two questions as well about is vaccination mandatory from Indranil, and
Yes.
from Reshma about hotel quarantine mandatory if you take 2 doses of Covishield. So
Yes.
hotel quarantine is mandatory regardless of your vaccination status. If you come from a red list country, as we are all currently in a red list country, myself in Delhi, yes, you have to enter hotel quarantine. It does not matter whether you're Covaxin, Covishield, Sputnik, or any other brand, or if you've had 1 dose or 2, you have to enter hotel quarantine if you're traveling from a red list country. So if you're worried about which vaccination to choose, you shouldn't worry, because at the very least, it does not affect what you're required to do from the UK. But also you should, even if you have the doses, you should expect to quarantine. One final point on vaccinations. If you have not been vaccinated and you arrive in the UK, you can be vaccinated by the UK National Health Service free of charge. You would be considered for that like any other British citizen or resident. So you can be vaccinated in the UK, and you are not required to be vaccinated to go to the UK, and it makes no difference on what is required from you in terms of hotel quarantine. I understand that the hotel quarantine is a difficult. Being quarantined for 2 weeks and having to pay the cost is a significant ask on students, but it is mandatory for everyone regardless of vaccination.
Okay, so thank you very much for this. Moving on ahead, one of the student is asking, can I bring the COVID test kit with me from India to UK?
Can you bring a COVID test with you? To what effect? I've not actually had that question before. You could bring it. I'll just say probably no. There's no benefit in doing that. Obviously you can bring whatever you like, but in terms of the tests you're required to get, you have a test before, up to 3 days before, in India. So that would be by a provider. There are many providers nowadays across India, of course, like everywhere in the world. But you get a test before, and that's from any sort of institution. I believe they're ICMR approved testing providers. So one of those providers would be probably recommendable. But when you pay for the hotel quarantine, the tests are included in that package. So you would enter hotel quarantine, and essentially the tests would be given to you at that point. So it's like, again, that's automatic as part of the entering the UK process.
Okay, so thank you very much. Now moving on to the next question. If I'm traveling to another city after reaching London, can I book the hotel quarantine in other city, or does it have to be in London?
So there are certain ports of entry which are allowed to take international arrivals during COVID. London is one of them. Others, such as Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh, are also permitted. But you basically will enter hotel quarantine immediately from wherever you enter the UK. So if you enter Heathrow, you would you would land at a certain terminal in Heathrow, and then directly from there would be buses to take you to wherever the quarantine location is for you and your sort of group of fellow quarantiners. Sometimes that's really close to Heathrow, sometimes that's a bit further away, but you would be immediately from the airport, you'd go into quarantine. You can't travel within the United Kingdom to your final destination. If you were to, if not all flights from India to UK directly are going to Heathrow, so that would be the experience for most people. However, if you took an indirect flight, for example, via the Gulf or via Europe and landed in Manchester or Edinburgh, you could quarantine at that location, but only if you landed directly into that location. So for example, if your final location is Manchester, the University of Manchester or Manchester Metropolitan or something like that, but you landed into Heathrow, you would quarantine from Heathrow Airport and then travel to Manchester after. However, if you landed directly into Manchester, you would quarantine from Manchester Airport. So yeah,
Okay.
but you won't have the freedom to move for the first 10 days in arrival in the UK. That's a bit serious sounding, but yeah, you will enter hotel quarantine immediately from the port that you enter the UK, and that's the key thing to think of. Because again, it's for public health, so we've got that first 10 days has got to be controlled. Like India does the same thing for international arrivals as well. So it's usual.
Okay. Next, moving on to the next, we have a student who she is asking, how long will the visa process take if we are applying from Bangalore?
15 working days. That's the same as before coronavirus. Or in Bangalore, like in most of our other visa application centres. I know quite a few people from the south are joining me today. So Hyderabad, Chennai, Cochin, Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore are all open and accepting student visas, and you can apply for priority visa if you wish. The standard process takes up to 3 weeks, can take sooner, but 3 weeks is the maximum. Vast majority of students get it in that time. If you want to, you can pay for priority visa from any of those South Indian locations, and indeed Calcutta, Chandigarh, Jalandhar, Delhi, all over the main visa application centres in India. You can pay for priority visa, which is about 20,000 rupees additional, or you can pay for super, which is 5 days. So if you apply on Monday, you'd get it by Friday, or you can pay for super priority visa, which is the end of the next day. So if you applied on Monday morning, you'd get it by Tuesday evening. That is 90,000 rupees though. So generally students go for priority visa because 90,000 is quite expensive. So yeah, so 15 days maximum, can pay for 5 days if you're in Bangalore or anywhere else in India currently.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on next, if the next student, if I pay the student fees before visa and make my conditional offer unconditional, what will be the amount I need to show for my visa acceptance?
If you've fully paid your fees, you show evidence that you've paid your fees in your visa application, but then you don't need to show that fee amount anymore on your account. So you would just show the maintenance fees. That second or that early slide that I showed, which said 1,023 per month inside London, outside London, or 1,334 a month inside London for up to 9 months, you would show that amount basically. So that would be. So again, let's assume your costs are £10,000 fees and outside London. If you paid your fees, you would no longer need to show that. You would just show evidence that you've paid that fee. And instead, you would just show about £9,200 or outside London. You'd show that in your account. So it's just the maintenance fees, which is between 9 and 11 lakh or thereabouts at the moment. But you would not need to show the tuition fees if you've paid that. But you would need, of course, to show evidence that you have paid that.
Okay. So one of a student is asking, will my parents be given a visa to accompany me?
Regrettably, probably not at the moment. That is another aspect of the red list, the travel ban. We're essentially, so our line, if you've seen it on social media or ever, is that people with residency rights are permitted to enter. What that means basically is that your visa allows you to live in the UK for more than 6 months. Students have that right. So all students, whether you're a master's or undergraduate, can travel to the UK pending hotel quarantine. But visit visas, which is for short visits, we're not processing these at the moment because of the red list, because there is a ban on short-term travel to the UK. So yeah, regrettably, parents couldn't travel, or any other individual, again, looking for a visit visa, because that's suspended at the moment because of COVID.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next question, we'll take 2 more questions after this. Due to conditional offer letter and the student is waiting for CBSE result, have not even he has paid the deposit, I mean, what next? I mean, he can't apply for the visa because the CBS results are not out. So, is there any way out for this?
So as far as the immigration policy is concerned, there's flexibility for higher education institutions, universities, to choose the academic documents that they will accept. And so I know that many exam boards have been cancelled this year, like last year, because of COVID, and many universities are accepting different documents from students who haven't been able to do their exams. If the university says they're accepting a certain document and they put that on the CAS, then that is the document that is required. So as far as immigration policy is concerned, that not having a certain academic document is not automatically a restriction on travel or applying for the visa. It'll be what the university say they'll accept. So you should speak to the university. If the university won't issue the CAS, then currently you're permitted to study online. So you could start the course remotely until 27th September. Currently the rules go to. So you could potentially study remotely in the short term, but yes, you should speak to university about what documents they'll accept and how you can get that CAS generated, because that is key. If you get the CAS, then you should be able to apply for the visa. It's like a sequence. You do the CAS first. If you get the CAS, you can probably apply for the visa, but it's up for the university to say that.
Okay. Moving on next, is it mandatory to show evidence that we have booked accommodation during visa process?
No, it's not mandatory. If you're talking about student accommodation, some people do show this, like show that they've got somewhere to live for the entirety of their course. Some people do show that, but it's not mandatory. And if you're talking about mandatory hotel quarantine, you don't need to show that for the visa application. You book the hotel quarantine between 10 and 2 days before you travel. So you can't do it more than 10 days before, and you should do it at least 48 hours before your flight to give it time to process. Okay. And so what I think many students will do, they will apply for their visa, say 2 months before they travel. Just as a rough example, apply for their visa 2 months before they travel. 3 weeks later, they'll get their visa, perhaps 1 month, 5 weeks before they travel. And then 2 weeks before they travel, they can book the hotel quarantine. And then 3 days before they travel, they'll get their COVID test. And then they'll travel, enter hotel quarantine, and then leave it after 10 days. So that's how you sequence it. Get the visa first, then think about the border quarantine and all that sort of stuff, because it's not required for the visa process.
Okay, so thank you very much, Harry. Further to this, this is generally for the students. After this session, we are going to have a one-on-one session with Harry. We have created a separate breakout room. So, Harry will end our question and answer session here. And I'll request you to, my colleague Shobit, to move you to the breakout room. Before doing that, I would like to thank you. Thanks for taking out time from your busy schedule and giving us a valuable insights about the current visa process and how to go about it. So thank you very much, and see you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I'll request students to wait here. My colleague are there. They'll move you one by one to the breakout room wherein you can interact with Harry. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shobit, can we move Harry to the breakout room?
Sure. Okay, yeah, on it. Yeah, done. Yeah, Harry is in the UKVI room. Okay. All who wants to have a one-on-one session with Harry, please drop a chat in the chat box. Hello. Everyone who wants to have a one-on-one session with Harry, please drop a chat box. Okay. Mona. Mona, can I have your contact number, please?
Yes, it is 96.
Yeah, I'll just.
Can I type
I'll just-
it there?
Yeah, I'll ping you a chat. I have pinged you. Please send your contact number to me.